This is the Doc Talk Podcast presented by BetFred Sports 2022, episode 31. Dr. Rob, where have you been?
I've been in stealth mode again.
You know,
hiding from you.
It's really weird for me because you and I had produced such a large amount of content, really since like the first part of August, right? I mean, we were producing videos, a podcast, just going left and right, and then you go out of town and we haven't done anything for like a week and a half, and I'm like, I went through like Dr. Rob withdrawal.
A week and a half, a week. It's been a week. 1 week.
No, it seems longer than that.
No, it was last Thursday.
Was that the last time we did anything?
Yeah, we did behind the point spread.
Oh, that's right. And you know, we're recording this on Thursday. So here's what's going to happen. This is not the Illinois preview. This will be kind of a recap of what Dr. Rob's been doing. We'll talk about the Purdue game. They're in the bye week right now. We'll bring up the report card again. Just talk about a hodgepodge of stuff, just to let everybody know. We are not doing behind the point spread this week because Scott Spreitzer let me know that he's like, hey, like my real gig.
He does have a day job.
He does have a day job, and it's important that he participates in that day job. And he's like, yeah, I won't be able to make it till like 9 o'clock your time. And I'm like, yeah, that's way too late. So we postponed behind the point spread, and since we don't pay Scott anything, it just seemed like it was the right thing to do. Well, we don't pay you, so I can't really bitch about it.
Well, it's not like we're gonna we call somebody to go to his house. Like
go break his legs. He's in Las Vegas.
Yeah, like the Vegas Mafia. Send some guys there with lead pipes. I'm not sure we're going to do that to him.
All right, if you're watching on YouTube, we are wearing the bum T-shirts. All right, the bum T-shirts have been made. I got to be honest with you, I'm a little disappointed. People aren't buying them. It's not a big seller. Owen goes, I told you so. I told you it wasn't going to be a big seller. So it's going to be a limited edition.
It was kind of a niche one, but
yeah, it's kind of.
I like it.
I like it too, and they're so damn comfortable.
God, they're comfy shirts.
Yeah, they really are. So they're going to be a limited time. You can check out the link that's in the Podbean description, or you can check out the link that is in the YouTube page description and get a bum T-shirt, or you get a Sorry Dave T-shirt, or a win or lose we drink booze T-shirt. Or Life's, it's called Life Grab a Helmet T-shirt.
Diversified portfolio.
The diversified portfolio one's catching on. A lot of people.
That's a cool shirt.
I think so too.
Just the design, because it doesn't have to relate to anything. It's just kind of if you're kind of a beer person, it speaks to you.
Yeah, I would agree, and it's got a lot of different beer mugs on there, all sorts of good stuff. So check out the description. Of course, the Doc Talk Podcast is presented by BetFred Sports, and while we're drinking our beer out of BetFred Sports koozies, we're drinking some beer from Atlanta. I don't even know. I forget who sent this to us, but man, it's I'm drinking a bourbon aged Scottish ale or Scotch ale.
So it's Monday Night Brewing. Which, I mean, we featured it on here before.
Ooh, that packs a punch. Yeah, my God.
We've gotten a lot of beer from I'm feeling horrible now. Was it Jeff?
I forget. Yeah. I'm sorry, Jeff, I just forget.
We've done a lot, but I mean, yes. The Atlanta beers have been good.
And just to let everybody know, our beer stash is getting low. Not that we're begging for beer, but we really did enjoy the beer from all across the country.
Dude, we got some good beer from a lot of people. So.
We did. So, if you want to send us beer, doctalksports@gmail.com, doctalksports@gmail. We're not begging, and we'll go buy our own beer. We're just saying we like the diversified portfolio that we've been enjoying.
So I've got a bourbon aged Scotch ale.
That's what I got.
That's what you got.
That's what I got too.
Okay, yeah,
because I'm too scared to touch that Imperial Stout.
Yeah, this thing, holy cow, this packs a punch.
Yeah,
I noticed like your koozies here on the table.
Yeah,
it's Templeton Rye koozies.
Yes,
it's like I took a sip of this beer and I'm just like. I don't need the Templeton. This stuff's going to be strong enough.
Of course, the Doc Talk Podcast is presented by BetFred Sports. You can download the BetFred Sports app today in the Apple or Google Play stores. And when you set up a brand new account, you can get a $20 free bet by using the promo code DocTalk. Again, the promo code DocTalk when you download the BetFred Sports app on the Apple or Google Play stores. I'm telling you, they have everything you want. College football's there, the NFL, and NBA in full swing right now. The NHL is going. And, of course, you have the Major League Baseball playoffs. They got a variety of betting types, including straight bets, in-play wagering, parlay cards, teasers, and more.
You can bet on British elections.
You can bet.
BetFred.
Well, because BetFred's it's a UK company.
It is.
And
I didn't know betting on elections was a thing.
Yeah, I think you can pretty much bet on anything.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Yeah. So you can bet on like Korean baseball with BetFred Sports.
Yeah, but that's a sport.
It is, but it's Korean baseball. Who the hell thinks about betting on Korean baseball?
Yeah, but during COVID, that was like all we had.
Remember, Kyle Peterson was doing like Korean baseball in his basement at like 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, I actually watched them on occasion. You'd go to the gym and there'd be no other sports on.
That's crazy. Absolutely crazy. So download the BetFred Sports app today and start your betting journey. The reason we didn't it's interesting. We let people know last week that the podcast was going to be delayed. We were going to try to record on Tuesday. You got back pretty late. We were going to do Wednesday. I had to MC an event last night, so we've settled on Thursday, which is pretty late for us. But you were out of town.
It is a bye week.
It is a bye week. But usually coming off a game, we try to go right away.
Yeah, we do.
You were actually at a game. You were at the Clemson, Florida State game.
Oh, it was a great game.
You had great seats too, man.
Yeah, we really did. We were probably about 20-yard line. I don't know. I mean, we were probably about 20 rows up. I mean, it was awesome seats. There's a number of places that are really cool to go watch a game. And, there's some places in the SEC that I think you really ought to hit. There's places in the Big Ten that are great. I mean, you ought to go see a whiteout at Penn State. I never have, but you ought to go to the Big House and see a game. I think seeing a game in Lincoln is definitely on that list. There's some places in the ACC that I think are just outstanding in terms of the experience of a game. I think at Clemson is big. I have played in Death Valley at Clemson. We played a preseason game there against the Carolina Panthers.
Really?
That was Carolina's inaugural season. That was when I was with the Giants.
Wow, you're old.
A little bit. So, yeah, their stadium was almost completed.
Okay.
And so but it wasn't open yet. So they played all of their preseason games that year down in South Carolina. So I've played there, saw Howard's Rock, the whole thing. It's a cool place. So, I mean, if you get a chance to go to see a game at Clemson, highly recommend it. Florida State's amazing. It's a cool place to go watch a game.
Before you get into Florida State, I was going to add Virginia Tech's not a bad place to watch a game either.
That's the other one. The one thing with Virginia Tech is that one of the things a few people have told me is that it's awesome. They said once you get past the whole Enter Sandman intro, it's like, yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, but it also depends on how good the team is, right?
And I think that's kind of true for anybody for the most part. But I mean, it's not like you're going to go to Iowa City to go to an Iowa game because you're going to go there, you're going to do the wave,
which is cool.
No, it's super cool.
But that's
about it.
Well, they have really good tailgating too.
Yeah,
they like to drink
really
in Iowa City.
The Iowa teams, Iowa State. I don't know. I haven't been to Iowa State forever.
Well, but the Iowa State set up pretty good because they've got the whole parking lot that goes back to Hilton. So you've got this just wide open space, which is flat.
See, and that's perfect for tailgating.
It is. It really is. So take me through what, just the whole game, the whole experience. You saw the chief throw the spear into the 50-yard line.
Yeah, so you got Renegades the horse.
Okay.
You've got the...
They didn't take a shit on the field like the pony down at SMU. Did you see that?
I did.
The little Shetland pony, they took it out and it just shit all the way across the field. Had to do like a half-hour delay for people to pick it up.
It's Texas. Come on.
Fucking horse shit all over the place.
Sorry, Dave. They got their shit together in Tallahassee. I'll say that. So no, it was kind of cool because I've been there for a game before. So my oldest daughter, and I went down. And we went to the Wake Forest game, which was a homecoming game. And that was cool because there's a pretty strong tie-in with the Seminole tribe. And they do a lot of stuff at homecoming with the Seminole tribe, pregame, halftime, etc. That was cool to see. It was a daytime game. The thing that was cool about this, it was a night game. So you did have everybody tailgating all day. They sell beer in the stadium. And so you've got some choices, which I thought this was a little interesting because one of my favorite beers is Oyster City Brewing Company, which is out of Apalachicola, Florida. And it's one of these small hole-in-the-wall places that just kind of has grown over probably the last 6 or 8 years. But they are now the official beer craft. They're the official craft beer of Seminole Nation.
Oh, really?
And so it's this little hole in the wall place. So picture like in Lincoln, if you look at your Lincoln breweries, picture like Nebraska deciding to do, okay, we're going to do beer through all athletic events. I know they're starting it at Pinnacle Bank, but let's say they're going to do it everywhere, football, basketball, etc. We'll do your standard Bud Light, Miller Light, Coors Light, and then we're going to do a craft beer, and the official craft beer is going to be Zipline or Cosmic Eyes for going Lincoln. I mean, if they're really smart, they'd go with somebody like Cross Strain, but imagine if they did Cross Strain as the official beer of Husker, official craft beer of Husker Athletics. So it's that kind of thing. So you go into the stadium and you got this whole selection of kind of the main Oyster City lineup. And it's pretty damn cool in that regard. Great crowd. But we got together with our older daughter and a couple of her friends, and we went and hit a bunch of fraternity tailgate parties all afternoon.
So you were like Vince Vaughn in Old School, man.
Oh, 100%.
Snoop-a-loop.
Well, and the funny thing is like you go to these tailgate parties, and there's like parents there hanging out, drinking beer with their kids, and it was kind of cool. So we did that, headed down to the stadium. It's just, Florida State's one of those places. You think about some of even I have to sit here and think for a bit about, okay, well, what are all the traditions we do at Husker football games? And I'm like,
there aren't any.
Well, we kind of got the tunnel walk. The marching band's done essentially the same pregame thing
since the beginning of time.
Since the beginning.
The balloons were a tradition, but they don't have that anymore.
Although I got to be honest, I'm not even sure I cared about that one.
Well, it's funny that you bring this up, and I don't mean this to be disrespectful. I don't, but we've often got into the conversation of Nebraska's best tradition was winning.
Yeah,
and they don't do that anymore.
Fill the stadium up.
Yes.
Try to be nice to the opposing fans. Win.
Yes.
That was you're right. That was really it.
Yeah. I mean, otherwise, it's not.
It goes downhill kind of. I mean, it's like, even like I said, the balloons. Even I was just like, yeah. I mean, I don't have a big argument against them. I mean, for or against. It wasn't that wasn't a big deal to me.
And I want to be perfectly clear. Winning as a tradition is not a bad thing. You're right. The consecutive,
it was great.
Yeah, the consecutive sellouts, the winning, that was the tradition.
They had a run. I mean, if you want to look at it, I mean, you look at it from 60. Devaney's first season was 62.
Yeah.
So from 62 until, well, it was Callahan's first year. What was that? 03?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So no 04.
Okay.
Fulich's last year was 03. That was the brought in Pelini and Barney Todd and that crew. So 04 so 62 through 03 did not have a losing season. I mean, the fewest wins they had in that time period actually was, I think, 67, 68, where Devaney went 6-4 for back-to-back years. And people called for him to be fired. But those were the two worst years, were 67 and 68 in that span from 62 to 03. The two worst years were 67 and 68.
Why you're bringing up traditions, or why we're on the tradition. We brought this up, I think, on Behind the Point Spread last week, and it's been already determined that the black shirts are not going to be given out the rest of the season. A lot of people would say, well, that's a tradition.
I mean, you've
but
got
but it's kind of lost its luster, right? It's a tradition. I mean, the pipeline isn't a tradition anymore.
You and I talked. Oh God, yeah. Don't call those guys a pipeline. You and I talked about this a little bit in the sense of the black shirts have meaning if you're playing well enough to deserve them. I mean, it's one of these things to talk about. Hey, one of our traditions is we call our defense the black shirts, but God, Purdue ran, what was it, 101 plays?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not black shirts.
And really, when was the last time it was? I mean, I think people get caught up in the nostalgia of it. This is a history thing, right? I mean, to me...
Well, I mean, last year that was a pretty solid that was pretty salty defense last year. They really didn't get nuked by anybody. Now, again, that I totally get it. I'm tangenting here with a little bit of a one-off, but I mean, the last time they were fairly solid was, I mean, I'd probably say sometime under Pelini.
Yeah, and that's why I'm like, okay, are the black shirts really a tradition? The pipeline is no longer a tradition. There's
I mean, even the whole pipeline thing. I mean, that
was kind of just you guys anyway.
That was kind of like something we did in '94, and we hoped it would catch on.
I think they tried to catch it on, but it didn't. It didn't stick.
I mean, through the '90s, I have no problem calling any of those teams in the '90s any of those offensive lines the pipeline. I mean, I'm perfectly cool with that. So.
I mean, there's no real tailgating traditions. Lot 12 is what? I mean, that's about it.
Yeah, I mean, Nebraska's never been a tailgating school.
No.
Now, it's gotten way better over the last 20 years, but it's not like you think about, hey, we're going to Nebraska and we're going to tailgate. It was always you've got a downtown university, you got a stadium that's landlocked by downtown Lincoln. And so from a tailgating standpoint, it used to be you'd go to the bars.
Yeah. Well, you remember this? Bill Byrne wanted to have tradition so bad. Do you remember when I think
anybody wants to.
Yeah. And it's hard to
pull it off.
It's hard to pull it off because most traditions start organically. You remember, you were gone by this time, but you may or may not remember when Bill Byrne, he hired Chip Davis to write an Alma Mater. And he came up with...
I don't remember that.
Oh, yeah. And I remember Mannheim Steamroller came out like the first game of the year, and they played this Alma Mater, which they tried to get everybody to sing.
I don't remember this.
It was a fucking disaster. Because
I thought Nebraska technically already had
it. But he wanted one that was just... that everybody could sing, right?
Girls are the fairest and boys are the squarest. That one wasn't cut in. Come on.
If people remember this,
Nebraska,
if people remember this, write in on the comments because I remember it. And they put.
I don't remember this. At all.
You were gone.
I had to have been in New York.
Yeah, you were gone. And I remember they put Chip Davis in like the north end zone.
I'm embarrassed in hindsight.
Yeah, it was bad. And they tried to force it upon people, and it never caught on, right? Hail Varsity, good tune. People like Hail Varsity.
Yeah, that works.
Yeah.
Although technically, my understanding, there's a fight song, and that's Hail Varsity. There's an Alma Mater. That's Dear Old Nebraska U. Is that the title?
Well, I don't. No, there is no place like Nebraska, right?
Okay, yeah, which is the Dear Old Nebraska.
Yeah.
But yeah, there is no place like Nebraska. That's the official school song, is my understanding.
Well, when Owen was at KU, they had an Alma Mater. So you go to Fog Allen Fieldhouse, you would hear it had this. It was a slower song, but it was an Alma Mater. Nebraska really never had an Alma Mater, and Bill Byrne tried to force this.
It's one of those things where like. You see a lot of teams, Texas always does the Eyes of Texas.
Yes.
But I mean, a lot of school, I think that's probably one of the more well-known ones. But you see a lot of schools.
A&M has the Aggie War Hymn, which is the coolest, by the way.
Yeah, so you see all of these schools that have that where game's over, you go to the fans or you go up to the student section. I'm talking about the players, and the players sing the fight song or the players sing the Alma Mater. So it's interesting because, my son played football at Omaha West Side High School. from 7th grade football on, they would go sing that to the parents in the stands, win or lose.
That becomes tradition.
Yeah. And so
is it carried on today?
Yeah. So if you go to an Omaha West Side football game, they get, it doesn't happen often, but they win, players go to the sideline, sing the school fight song. They lose, they go to the sideline, go to the student section or up to the parents, sing the school fight song. During COVID, we played at Grand Island.
Aren't they the ones that like banned you?
Yeah, so they I'm not sure I'm still welcome by Grand Island Public Schools. Anyway, but yeah, so they banned all fans from coming to Grand Island. We still went. The Grand Island Parent Booster Club set us up at this beautiful park. We brought TVs, got a wireless hookup, and we were able to stream the game from this park. They provided us food and beer. It was honestly great. Anyway, yeah, so the Grand Island Booster Club hooked us up, but Grand Island Public Schools, no. But anyway, so the stadium on the visitor side, they got this incredible stadium. They could have totally isolated us over there. But so you had this completely empty side of stands, except for the two video guys. And so the two video guys who were doing the huddle video for the football game come out of the press box, come down, and the team goes over and sings the school fight song at the end of this game to two guys in the stand.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
It was pretty cool.
And for the record, you don't need traditions, okay? I'm not sitting here saying that Nebraska's bad because it doesn't have any traditions.
But you're right. It has to come organic.
It does. The wave was an organic thing.
Yeah, and try to generate these. That's why all of the rivalry trophies in the Big Ten.
Yeah. That's why the Heroes Trophy sucks, because it was forced.
Totally sucks ass. Like Little Brown Jug, Florida Rosedale, all of that.
Paul Bunyan's axe.
Yeah, the Paul Bunyan thing, but that's Michigan and Michigan State is the statue of Paul Bunyan.
Well, I don't know about the statue. Minnesota and Wisconsin is Paul Bunyan's axe, isn't it?
Yeah, so Michigan and Michigan State, it's this weird ass looking statue of Paul Bunyan. Like they all got something. They all got their thing. Anyway, yeah, that's why the Heroes Trophy doesn't and never will work. And that's actually why the whole, the Bits of Broken Chair Trophy?
Yeah.
Is actually kind of a little bit cool, because
I would agree
a
with
bunch
you.
of fans latched onto it like, okay, this is completely stupid and we love it. We're going to try and keep this going.
Yeah, and so, but it just seems in the South, and it may be just because they're amplified because of television stuff. It just seems like when you go to Florida State, when you go to an LSU, when you go to a Texas A&M, the traditions are off the chart.
And Baton Rouge is another one of those places. If you want to go watch a football game, I've never talked to anybody who's gone there and hasn't said it's awesome. A&M, it's awesome. Florida State, God, it's cool. And and it's funny because there's the whole the little Seminole War chant. The dun,
dun, dun, dun, dun. Did you do it?
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Oh, big time. Now the funny thing is that everybody thinks of that. They think you go to a Florida State game and you think you're going to hear that. 90% of the time you are in the stadium, and it is one of the least used.
Really?
Things going on in the stadium. The big one they always do that happens nonstop the whole game is they do FLORIDA, STATE, Florida State, Florida State, Florida State. Woo! Anyway, they do that 90% of the time you're in the stadium. You walk out of the stadium, go home, wake up the next morning, you'll be pouring yourself a cup of coffee, and in your head you're still sitting there going, FLORIDA, STATE, Florida State, Florida. Wait, what am I doing? It's like that. It's like you hear that. That's what you hear nonstop.
Yeah.
So it's one of these things. Everybody thinks it's the war chant, but it's actually the the spelling out Florida State chant is the one that happens nonstop.
But see, those are great traditions. As much as I like the wave and love the wave in Iowa City, you don't go home going, boy, we waved at a bunch of kids in hospital yesterday. You don't.
But you do. That is a cool tradition.
It is. And it's cool because everybody, even the opposing team, participates in it.
That one kind of started organic.
Yes.
I mean, some people, I don't know how it exactly started, but it seemed like it kind of started small. Then it got a little bigger and a little bigger and a little bigger and a little bigger, and now it's a thing.
Yes,
and I like that because I'm not sure people intended that to become as big of a thing as it's become, but it's kind of cool, and I appreciate that fact.
But let's use Iowa State as an example. Okay, you don't get to say the Juicy Wiggle and Sweet Caroline is a tradition. When
I will maybe give Sweet Caroline to.
I'll give it to the Boston Red Sox.
Yeah, I mean, there's a small handful, but I would probably say 90% of your Sweet Caroline singing sporting events don't get to claim it as their own.
Well, and let's use Jump Around at Wisconsin, which is super cool. It's awesome. But to me, if you're using somebody else's music to jump around, to me, traditions are something that, I don't know, that just started.
Well, and I'm okay with using some, like, I mean, I'm okay with Wisconsin using House of Pain and Jump Around.
But is it a tradition?
Well, it kind of is now.
Yeah. I mean, Rock Chalk Jayhawk, right?
Okay, now, and again, that's their thing.
Yes.
I mean, if you want to be honest about it, think about Nebraska and doing Sirius.
Yeah. I mean, that was the Bulls.
Yeah, that was the Chicago Bulls.
Yeah.
Is where we got that.
I never thought we would go off on traditions, but to me, and again, it's not bad if you don't have traditions.
Well, and it's not. Well, it's not bad if you're winning it. If winning's your tradition, you're winning a shit ton. If you're not winning, it sucks ass.
Maybe that's why everybody's depressed.
You don't have any of these other traditions.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of places you can go. I mean, I'm trying to think of a school that has some really good traditions.
A&M.
So, okay, let's take A&M for example. Let's say A&M has a 10-year run where their best year is 7-5. That's their best year. People will still show up, pack the stadium, and do those traditions every Saturday.
Because they go to Friday night yell practice.
Yep.
And the marching band is cool because there is no liberal arts music major at Texas A&M. You're part of the core. You choose to be in the band, and they don't do all these fancy bullshit things. They just do military marches up and down, and people go, "Oh, I like that."
Yeah,
and then you got the 12th man, and you got the Aggie War Hymn. So you're like, okay, I can do all this.
It works.
My daughter works at Ole Miss. They don't have very many football traditions. You know what they do well? They tailgate in the Grove. If you go to the Grove like every Saturday, people won't even go to the game.
Well, that's the thing is like Ole Miss could suck horribly at football, and they have for huge swaths of time.
True.
It's either there's a Manning there or a Kiffin. Outside of that, they've kind of sucked. They haven't been that good.
Hugh Freeze wasn't bad there.
He was okay.
Until he started calling prostitutes. Don't call prostitutes, folks. It's you'll get busted on you, especially on your work phone.
Yeah, don't do that. No, but I mean, for the most part, it's not. Let me ask you this. Outside of Lane Kiffin, one of the Mannings, and maybe a little bit of time with Hugh Freeze, do you think of Ole Miss as, outside of what I mentioned,
no.
Do you think of Ole Miss as football powerhouse?
No, not at all.
Not at all. No. Have they ever not packed the Grove for tailgate?
The Grove, no, it's always packed. They don't go to the stadium, but they put on their bow ties and they put on their Southern gentleman outfits and they drink and eat.
And that's great. And that's a tradition.
Yeah.
That's Oxford. Win or lose, that's going to still happen because it is a tradition. When you look at, and that's one of the things I've always felt kind of sad about, I guess, with Nebraska, is that they don't have those traditions. You just don't. It's like winning is our number one tradition when we've got it. And we had it for a good number of years. I mean, it was glorious. I mean, you think about it. I mean, there was a 50-year run of just kicking ass. And
taking names.
And that was great. And we don't have that currently. And all of a sudden you realize, God, there's not much else. I mean, they've done the things, what is it, the Killians, where it's like the little Irish stomp song. I don't know if you've been to a game to see that.
I mean, I haven't been to a game in Lincoln since 2011, 2012.
Damn.
I know.
Yeah, so
Trust me, I've seen my fair share of games in Lincoln. It's not like I need to go back.
Yeah, they got a couple of little things they're trying to do is sort of like, hey, here's going to be some pseudo-traditions going forward. But we don't have that. And I mean, it's one of those other things, too. This also ties in. It's not like Nebraska's got a great rival. I want the Iowa game to be a rivalry. But, God, at some point,
you got to beat Iowa.
We got to beat them. And it's got to mean something to both schools. And that was the thing with Oklahoma that was a little bit of a shock to me, because I always thought, I knew Oklahoma and Texas hated each other. I always considered the Nebraska-Oklahoma game a really good rivalry game. And then I went to the NFL and I played with some dudes from Oklahoma, and you'd sit and talk with these guys, and they were always like, well, we liked you guys. We liked the Nebraska game, but it was always like, depending on the season, Texas and Okie State, I mean, so the Red River rivalry and Bedlam, when it has its own name, and like you got to go looking to find out where that name came from. Like, it's not just like, well, the sports information director in 2013 came up with it.
You got to do research.
Yeah, when you got to research where the name Bedlam came from. Now, I know what Bedlam is, and I understand historically that. I'm talking about in reference to the Oklahoma State game. When did that first start getting called Bedlam? When you got to go research that, that's an organic rivalry. But they always said Red River and Bedlam were rivalries, 1A and 1B, depending on how good they were on a given year. Nebraska was always number 2.
I remember back in 1994, I went to a game, watched Alabama play Southern Miss. And that's when Alabama still played a game or two a year in Birmingham at Legion Field.
They would do the Birmingham and Tuscaloosa.
So
flip.
I was all new to this because my good
this was something that even to this day, I still have like, okay, well, what was the Birmingham thing? What was the Tuscaloosa thing?
Well, because I think it was just one of those things. I think it went back to the Bear Bryant days. I could be wrong, but Birmingham is bigger. And to play at Legion Field. Legion Field was pretty popular at the time, but I didn't understand the whole Southern SEC culture, right? And I was asking, I'll never forget this, some Southern guy, and I was just asking about the Auburn Alabama rivalry. I go, how big is it? He goes, oh, you want to know how big it is? This is how big it is. If Jesus Christ himself in the middle of the game came down to the 50-yard line during the Auburn, Alabama game, they'd say, get the fuck off the field and we'll talk to you after it's over.
I guarantee you that's coming from a Southern Baptist.
Yes, that's exactly what it was. You're like, oh, that's pretty damn important. You'd tell Jesus to get off the field.
Yeah, so those guys don't like each other.
No, they don't like themselves at all. Hey, you know what's funny is we get a lot of questions, and people have been asking us, hey, what happened to Ticket Express? We haven't talked about Ticket Express. Well, there's been some changes and everything going on. Ticket Express Ticket Express is still around. It just has a different name, and it's called Tickets for Less. That's right. Ticket Express is now Ticket for Less, and you can still go to ticketsforless.com to get the best deals on Nebraska football tickets, Nebraska basketball tickets, concert tickets, Creighton basketball tickets. Not only does Tickets for Less have unrivaled customer care team to ensure that you have the best ticket buying experience, they also never charge you per ticket service fees. Again, I always hate it. I went to a concert down at the Slowdown the other day. It was a good concert. It was Mike Campbell, Mike Campbell, who was the guitarist for Tom Petty. But I always hate it because it was like a $40 ticket and a $10 service charge. It's like, come on, man, really? I get it. I mean, if you would have said $1.50 or something like that, $10 for a service charge. Well, you're not going to get that service charge at Tickets for Less because, well, they care about you. They want to save you money at checkout. Plus, when you use the promo code DocTalk, Dr. Rob, at ticketsforless.com, you can save even more on your order. So go to ticketsforless.com, use the promo code DocTalk when you check out, and you're going to save even more on your ticket purchase. So shop for your seats and save today at ticketforless.com.
Nice. I wish I'd known this for the Florida State Clemson game.
See, well, yeah. The deal kind of happened when you were gone.
Well, that's okay.
No, I stopped by. I saw Chad today. He looks good. He sounds good. I know the last year, COVID wrecked a lot of people, man.
COVID kicked the shit out of a lot.
It did.
Well, a lot of stuff. We talked about this a lot with Chad in the ticket brokering business, that was one business that really got hit hard. And the one thing I really appreciated about Chad was there was a lot of tickets sold that, like, that value never got honored. And I remember Chad always kind of backed that. So,
yeah.
And I appreciate the fact he's involved with this still. So,
did you reach out to our good buddy Connor Orr at Horgan and Flint?
I got to give him a call.
Yeah, because he's got this big symposium coming up with like NIL stuff, and he's been trying to get a hold of it. I remember I sent you a text.
I know, but I've been out of town. I've been drinking beer in Florida.
And eating oysters?
Oh my God, we ate so many oysters. So I love raw oysters. So do you.
I do. Love it. And Anjanette was down in New Orleans for my daughter's 21st birthday. She went with the charred oysters at Superior Seafood, and they were sending me photos all the time. I kind of like the raw better than the charred.
I don't know if I've tried so is the charred, you just throw them on the grill? Or how
you can throw them on It's
still in the shell?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so I've done that. I mean, so I don't know. For all you seafood listeners out there, this was probably about 10 years ago. So the area we go in Florida, it's actually, the oyster industry's kind of been hit hard. And a lot of it's been temperature changes, warming climate. It kind of wreaks havoc on some of these animals that rely on sort of these sort of niche environments, and oysters are one. You can still farm them very successfully, but the whole natural oyster beds where you could go out and just, hey, here's oysters as far as you can see across the bottom of the bay, you're not seeing that as much anymore. I would probably say the vast majority of the oysters that you eat in any restaurant are farmed anymore. But about 10, 15 years ago, you could go out and you could literally go rake them up yourselves. It looks like giant tongs with salad tongs, and you'd go out on an oyster boat, you'd rake them up, you'd do a fishing charter, you'd go fishing for half the day, and then you'd go oystering for half the day. But we would fill like a 50-gallon garbage pail with oysters.
Seriously?
Yeah, like yay big, or for all you people, this big around, your full-size 50-gallon garbage can. You would fill one of those with oysters. You get on shore, you'd go hit the quick shop and get like 5 of the 20-pound bags of ice and just dump all that ice on top and just let that ice melt. You'd leave it out wherever you were staying. Hopefully you had a grill. So you'd park that garbage can next to the grill, and just every day you'd put a couple 20-pound bags of ice on top of it. Just let it melt down in. Keep them darn near freezing temps, which would keep them alive. And then you'd go out there every day, lunchtime, dinner, whatever, with a shucking knife, pop them open, get the grill going, throw them on the grill them up, top them with cheese or hot sauce, whatever the hell you wanted. And you would just sit there and sip beers and eat grilled oysters all day. So when you say charred, I'm sitting here going like, yeah, I've done that. And that was freaking awesome.
Yeah, and they put cheese on it and just a bunch.
So we would get like a couple jars of like horseradish, couple kinds of hot sauce that you like, find a couple different kinds of cheese you like. And we would sit down there and just kind of experiment, mixing stuff up, some different spice mixes. But we would just grill them up, sit there and eat them while we're sipping beers, just BS and getting sunburned like all hell. God, it was awesome.
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
But you'd burn through. I mean, probably in a week you'd burn. I mean, it'd take you a week to burn through that 50-gallon can of garbage can of oysters. But oh my God, the mercury levels in my body from like a couple of those trips alone, it's got to be brutal. But God, they were delicious. So,
but Connor Orr is going to be a guest speaker at the sports law panel with Dan Lust. It's going to be hosted by Orr, Horgan, and Flente, November 18th at 12:30 at the UNL Law School down in Lincoln. Kyle Flente is going to be talking. Connor Orr is going to be talking. Tom Horgan's going to be talking. So basically, the entire law firm is going to be talking.
Which honestly, that would be a cool thing to do. If you're interested at all in this, that's big time.
Yeah, that's a good deal.
Dan's a great guy. I mean, so Dan's...
You know Dan Lust?
Well, he follows us, and we follow him on Twitter.
Well, you follow him. The only time I post on your Twitter account is
so Dan
is to let everybody know the podcast is out.
Dan is a guy. So Dan's a lawyer. I'm going to call him a sports lawyer. So kind of in the same vein as what Connor does.
Yeah.
So Dan was one of the guys who started following during COVID when the Big Ten shut down football. When Nebraska was kind of the team, when you looked at the players and the parent groups who really kind of spearheaded the opposition and kind of the legal opposition to the Big Ten, Dan was one of the guys on a national level who started following this, reporting on it from a legal standpoint, and in doing so ended up becoming this big Husker fan. Because Nebraska was the team that really kind of spearheaded that. So from a legal standpoint, if you wanted to be kind of at the forefront of that fight between players, parents, individual teams within the Big Ten Conference against the Big Ten Conference, Dan was the guy that really kind of followed that and from a legal standpoint covered that from a lawyer perspective. So he's a good guy to have in this, but ended up becoming a huge Husker fan. And I got to double check. I think he's not in Nebraska.
He's not. I do know that. But maybe, you know what? Maybe we can get Dan on.
Northeast. I think he actually might be a Massachusetts guy.
Maybe we can get Dan on with Connor.
I thought Dan was a Boston guy, maybe.
Maybe we can get him on that symposium or that
no, but you got some guys. I mean,
November.
when you look at guys like that, that's going to be a great group. And Connor's a guy that, boy, I mean, you talk about a guy who has really immersed himself in the and keep in mind, NIL's 2 years in?
Yeah.
I mean, this coming
year and a half, really.
Yeah, it's a year and a half. This coming summer, so like summer of 23 is going to basically be 2 years. So it's still incredibly emerging. Connor's one of these guys that has just immersed himself in that, and that you're going to find few guys that, for as new a subject matter as this is within the legal world, knows as much about it as Connor Orr.
And for more on Connor Orr and Orr, Horgan, and Flente, go to ohflaw.com. That's ohflaw.com. You've had an off week, but guess what? The holidays are right around the corner, so make sure to go to Husker Hounds. 2 locations in the Omaha area. Scotty Strunk he's one of the nicest damn human beings you'll ever find in the whole wide world.
Scott.
So do I.
I just dropped off. We're redoing our basement. So I was going through stuff. I found a 1994 commemorative Wheaties box.
You know, it's funny. I kept all I had a Cale Sanderson Wheaties box. I had a 94 Wheaties box.
Do you still have that?
No, because Owen and my wife threw it away.
Oh.
They're like, why the fuck would you want this stuff, Dad?
Okay.
This is stupid, Dad. Why do you keep this shit, Dad?
I
tried to tell him.
As a wrestling fan, do you have any fucking clue how cool Cale Sanderson box
Owen's like, just throw the shit out. Just go.
Oh.
My wife's like, it's 20-year-old Wheaties.
Owen, I love you and I hate you at the same time right now. Like we're gonna lose our YouTube feed right now. Owen's gonna be like, sorry, Dave, fuck you.
Yeah, I had a Kale Sanderson.
Oh, that pains me. That's like I would trade my night. So
You would trade what? What would you trade?
Well, no, I had 2 of these 94 Nebraska national title Wheaties boxes.
Oh, I thought you were going to trade me a ring. I would get if you're going to trade a ring.
No, that ain't happening. Yeah, I want some remembrance of what we did once. No, I would rather have the Cale Sanderson Wheaties box than the 94.
My wife is like, why are we keeping these Wheatie boxes? And I'm like, because it's Cale Sanderson.
So I had a couple of things that I got this handful of things that I consider like disposable, consumable goods.
Yeah.
So it was these 2 Wheaties boxes. So I kept one. And so I called up Scotty and I was like, do you want this other Wheaties box? It's a 94 national title one. So I drop it off at his main location there on 84th and Center. He texts me and he's like, my daughter wants to try them. And I'm like, that's 28-year-old Wheaties. Which it's one of those things. It's not like it would hurt you.
Breakfast of Champions, buddy.
I mean, unless you open it up, I mean, it's hermetically sealed from the damn factory. So unless there was some kind of A, bacteria, or B, fungus or mold that's gotten in there. But if you shake it, it sounds very solid. So I'm thinking
still crisp.
Nothing's gotten in there to break this shit down. But this is literally 3-decade-old Wheaties. And I do kind of sit around and wonder, like, what would that shit taste like?
So has you bring up has Wheaties lost its place? I mean, growing up, it was Bruce Jenner. It was the Breakfast of Champions.
Oh my God! Do you have any idea how much Wheaties I ate? As
I know.
A kid?
I mean, but now,
well, and I was also one of these kids. So my mom, 0 sugar cereals.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So we would do do you remember the little mini boxes?
Dude, I was raised on Cocoa Pebbles and Fruity Pebbles.
Yeah, so
right?
remember the multi-pack mini box?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
So my mom would get those when we went on vacation.
Okay.
And so we got to experience sugar cereals like 1 week a year.
Fruit Loops?
It was the multi-pack.
Fruit Loops, Raisin Bran, Apple Jacks, Captain Crunch.
Fruity Pebbles, Lucky Charms, you had all of them. So we would we had 1 week a year. We would go to a lake. Breakfast every day would be those. And it was like, oh my God, it was heaven, dude. So otherwise it was Wheaties, shredded wheat, and not the frosted mini wheats. It was the true shredded wheat. Rice Krispies, Corn Flakes. Name another cereal that's not made of sugar.
Raisin Bran.
We did the Raisin Bran.
Grape Nuts.
Lot of grape nuts.
But you know what I did with grape nuts? I would take like a large teaspoon and just dump sugar all over.
Now, here's the thing that still to this day, I'm still like, really, Mom? What the fuck? Here's the sugar bowl, kids. So we would take all of these. We would take our cornflakes, our shredded wheat biscuit, the big biscuit, your grape nuts, whatever, and heaping spoonful after heaping spoonful of sugar on top. That was fine.
But it can't be processed sugar.
Fucking God forbid General Mills had that sugar themselves. You were going to touch that. So I remember one time we were at my grandfather's house, Burlington, Iowa, and he gets out the milk, he gets out the cereal, and I mean, sure enough, it's like cornflakes, and my brothers and I, it's like we're pouring our bowls of cornflakes, pour the milk, pop open the sugar bowl, and we're dumping sugar all over it. And keep in mind, this is like 1977, by the way. So you know the phrase, would you like some something with your something?
Yeah.
So my grandfather, so Wayne Johnson of Burlington, Iowa, longtime Drake hardware manager, looks at my brothers and I in the late 1970s. So this phrase at least existed in the 1970s. He looks at us, he goes, would you guys like some cereal with your sugar? I mean, we're just pouring sugar on there. And I was always just like, okay, in hindsight, why the hell not just buy the goddamn Captain Crunch?
Exactly. But it goes back to my original question. Is Wheaties even a big deal anymore? Because
I'm like 90% sure no.
Because we were convinced. Now, you were a much better athlete than I was, but I wasn't bad when I was younger and skinnier and you know, had a little ability.
I've seen photos. You look like you'd play some ball.
Okay, but we were convinced that Wheaties made us a better athlete. We were.
Oh, so that was an era where like everybody and their fucking dog bought into advertising.
True. But we saw Bruce Jenner win the decathlon. We're like, motherfucker eats his Wheaties, man. We're going to eat Wheaties.
Okay. Still to this day, the greatest meme of all time. Have you seen the one where it's Bruce Jenner, Howard Cosell, and O.J. Simpson sitting there? They got their ABC Sports jackets on.
Those yellow ones, which, by the way, News Channel Nebraska. I don't know if anybody's seen those things, man.
I have, because believe it or not, I do watch News Channel Nebraska. They cover NAIA football.
Okay. Fair.
If you want halfway decent NAIA football coverage in Nebraska, you got to watch News Channel Nebraska.
Okay.
No, but I mean, it was. It's those yellow jackets, and you're right, because I've watched several News Channel Nebraska during COVID, covered a ton of high school football games. So if you wanted to watch high school football, you watched a lot of News Channel Nebraska. Yeah, it was the old school. It was like the old school ABC Wide World of Sports yellow jackets.
The thrill of victory. The agony of defeat.
Oh, God, I miss those days. Anyway, but the meme is it's Bruce Jenner, Howard Cosell, and O.J. Simpson. And the meme is Howard Cosell saying, I have seen into the future, and you guys aren't going to believe this shit. I just think it's like, you got O.J. beheading people. And anyway, so.
And Bruce Jenner, now Caitlyn Jenner. So, yeah, that's what I can't tell you the last time I was in Hy-Vee, because I usually do most of my shopping at Costco now. So they don't sell the Wheaties at Costco, but I didn't know if I went through Hy-Vee, if I'd see the Wheaties.
I still see them.
Who's on the box of Wheaties?
Shit, I don't know. I don't buy them. My kids were
because
they
Rob, there was a time in 1978, 79, 80, we knew who the box. I mean, it would change. You knew
100%.
Yeah.
Like, you almost kind of wondered. Even then, you kind of wondered why you weren't saving the box.
Yes.
But, I mean, my kids like Captain Crunch with Crunch Berries. They liked Lucky Charms. Outside of that, it's kind of weird, because my daughters have liked everything except cold cereal. Any version of eggs that you can come up with, boiled eggs, fried eggs, omelets. My daughters loved eggs. Bagels, any style of bagel, anything you could put on bagels. My daughters loved that. My two daughters liked everything except cold cereal. My son liked sugar cinnamon Pop-Tarts and the apple cinnamon Kellogg's. What's Kellogg's breakfast bars called?
I don't buy.
It
sounds too healthy for me.
Yeah, it's Kellogg's cereal bars. So
okay.
he likes Kellogg's cereal bars. He likes cinnamon sugar Pop-Tarts. Any other Pop-Tart? No. Cinnamon sugar?
Really?
It's good. Yeah, that's it.
That's interesting.
He'll eat
Eat them
that.
cold, or does he have to toast them?
No, never toast them.
Oh,
Which I'm one of those guys.
what's wrong with your son?
Which I'm one of those toast them, put them in a toaster oven. Hell, even microwave them for like 17 seconds. Pop-Tarts.
I've never done that. I've never nuked them.
No, you the microwave thing, it's toasting them's better, don't get me wrong. Microwaving works weirdly well.
Okay.
Which is weird. That might be the only thing in the world that I like microwave, because I'm one of these guys that we got leftover pizza. How do you eat leftover pizza?
Well, one of two ways.
Okay.
I will either eat it straight cold.
Highly underrated.
I would
I'm
agree.
with ya.
Or my wife has convinced me of this because she doesn't like the nuke stuff. And when I say nuke, that's microwave. She will get a frying pan out and will reheat it up on the oven, on the stove.
Do you know why she does that?
No.
Because she's smarter than us. No, so I mean, I'm a reheated leftover pizza snob.
She feels the microwave makes it soggy.
100% she is correct. I will not microwave pizza. You got leftover pizza. I'm an oven guy.
Okay.
So I'll turn on the oven to 375, give it 10 minutes, then I put it on a rack. I'll put sheet of tin foil on the bottom of the oven to catch anything that melts and drips off. But if you're going to reheat pizza, fucking do it right with like cast iron pan, something like that. Put it back in the oven. The oven thing's key because it re-crisps the crust. The cheese gets nice and melty, and you take it out and eat it. And I guarantee you, it's better than fresh.
Okay, so how do you do your bacon? Because she's been doing the bacon a lot in the oven.
So I do it in the oven.
Okay.
So yeah, baking sheet like a big cookie pan.
Yeah.
Tin foil, lay everything out nice and flat, put it in the oven. And there's kind of here's the other thing. With the bacon, there's an all or nothing with this. You got to go like low and slow from the get-go, like no joke. 255 degrees for an hour and a half.
With the bacon?
With bacon.
Oh, she goes like 400 and it's done.
Or you go 375 or higher for about 15 minutes. You can't do anything in between. You do anything in between those two, it's going to turn to rubber. Which I got to be honest with you, the 255. So like what I'll do on a normal weekend, I'll try to get up around 5 a.m., throw the bacon in the oven, and at like 6:30 take it out. And there's like zero burn at all because it's 255 degrees and it's super crispy. Like, I mean, it's, oh, dude, like I want to go kill some bacon right now.
All right, come to me, because this really does sound like a perfect YouTube video. I should show up at Rob's house at like 5 o'clock some morning, and he can teach us all how to do bacon.
I know my bacon, dude. When it comes to swine, like, okay, do you remember Pulp Fiction?
Yeah.
Okay, remember when they're having the foot rub, the foot?
Yeah.
Like, and I don't remember Julius's line, but he's like, it's like, I'm a goddamn foot massage master. He had some line like that. That's me and pork. I know my pork.
You know, okay. You know, it's funny because I was at Costco the other day, and they had like just a big old slab of pork belly, and I was like, oh, I should just buy this and cut my own bacon.
So pork belly is different than bacon.
Yeah, but if you cut it in slices, it's going to look a lot like bacon.
It's gonna look like bacon. It's not bacon. It's pork belly.
What's the difference?
You don't know your swine, dude.
And I don't know my pig as well as you do.
It's funny. I remember I was watching Food Network. This is when Food Network had good shows and not contests. But they had this. They were doing a barbecue show, and the guy was some hole-in-the-wall barbecue guy in the South, and he was talking about how when he's smoking, he wants some high-fat pork, some kind of pork with a high-fat content on the upper rack so it drips down on whatever else he's smoking, whether it's brisket, ribs, I mean, he'll put a pork butt in there and do it this way. And so whoever the host of the show was talking to him, and he was like, okay, so I mean, you say like a high fat pork, like do you use pork belly? What do you use? And the guy goes, no. He goes, pork belly's too lean. I use fat back.
So I need to get the fat back.
You got to get the fat.
Can I get a big old thing of fat back somewhere?
I think if you go to Fairway in Omaha, they'll get you some fat. They would get you fat back.
People are probably wondering, you guys ever going to talk about sports? Maybe not.
I don't know.
But it was interesting because, I didn't know how to take this because, and I respect the man tremendously. Terry Pettit is one of the smartest men ever to be around. He may not know this, but we used to joke that his nickname amongst the media members was Socrates because he is smart. He's so smart and he's so philosophical, but everybody called every time he sat down at a press conference, you felt that he tried to be smarter than you. Like you would ask a question.
He wasn't trying, he just was.
He was, and so we just called him Socrates because he was philosophical that way. I respect him. He put a tweet out the other day after the Purdue game that, and I'm paraphrasing here, I don't have it with me, but he was saying, hey, I really don't want to see guys put out letter grades for somebody else as long as the guys played hard and whatever, Now, and I didn't know if that was a shot at you, if it was a shot at Sam McEwen, or who was a shot at.
I don't know if it was a shot at anybody, but I think he was trying to comment on the fact that when he's looking at a fellow coach like Mickey, that he has seen something that you haven't seen in Nebraska in a while, and that was a team that was willing to fight to the very end. Now, I agree with him in that regard.
I disagree with him because the report card that you put out, let's be honest, we never, the report card really was organic. I know report cards aren't something, or they're nothing new in the media world. I think it was after the first game I said, hey, Rob, let's do a report card just to see what happens. It's turned into one of the most anticipated things on your Twitter feed. Would you agree with that?
I'd say yeah.
Yeah. Now, I don't think you take yourself too serious. What I think your report card does is start conversation about what happened in the game, and you respond with courtesy.
I will probably say, if you like, the thing with the report card for me is that if you want to have a little bit of a Twitter interaction, the report card's the way to do it.
Yes.
Because that's the one thing that I will 100% try to do my best to interact with most fans on.
Yes. And that's why I look at the report card and go, okay, if you take the report card literal, you're fucking stupid.
Well, I mean,
no, what I mean is
taking it literal's fine. I guess my take is just understand that I may have a different grading system than you do.
Yes.
And I mean,
but it's a conversation starter.
Yes.
That's all it is.
And it's one of those things where I am completely open to suggestion on this. And there was actually a few people who pointed out a couple of things where, in hindsight, I went back and was like, okay, yeah, you know what? You're probably right.
And let's be honest. Rob was drunk in Florida when he was watching the Nebraska game.
I was pounding Oyster City Brewing Company beers in the stands at the Florida State Clemson game, which, by the way, guess how many alcohol-related incidents we saw inside that stadium?
0.
Goose egg. Which is exactly what you'll see in any place that, well, I don't know. There's a lot of NFL stadiums where people post fights all the time, but
that's Buffalo and Philadelphia.
Chiefs and Raiders.
Yeah, Raiders and
those four teams do. You're going to see fights all the time. The thing about the report card is, and it's like there's a handful of. It's an interesting topic because there's a lot of multiple different discussions here going on with Coach Pettit's tweet. And so on one hand, I really, really like the fact that he put it out there because he was trying to say, hey, I like what Mickey's doing in Lincoln. You got a coach who for the first time in years, at least half a dozen years, through the Riley and Frost era, has got a team with their backs against the wall. They're getting their, I hate saying it, they're kind of getting their ass kicked.
And staying in at the same time.
And they're still staying in the game because they're sitting here and finally thinking, hey, if we keep fighting, we can win this. And I respect that, and that means a huge amount because that's something when you look at some of these Nebraska volleyball teams that Pettit coached, that John Cook have coached, that's one thing you see. You don't see teams folding, ever. I don't know if I've ever seen a Terry Pettit or a John Cook team fold. I have seen Nebraska football teams fold over the last 20 years. Those guys, the people they coached didn't fold. And so I think Coach Pettit's looking at Nebraska this year and going, this is different. These guys didn't fold. And I agree with that. Now, the grading thing is kind of something in and of itself that is probably far more suited to football than almost any other sport out there, especially in this day and age where you have the true platoons. We've got a true offense that's separate from the defense, that's to a degree separate from the special teams. So you can break it apart. They do operate in silos a little bit here. Volleyball doesn't.
Yeah.
The same players that are playing offensively in volleyball are the exact same players that are playing defensively, other than maybe the libero, who's a defensive specialist. But even the libero, when they've got the ball on their side of the net, they're playing offense. They may defer to somebody else. They may let somebody else take the ball. But if it comes to them, they're going to play offensively. That's not football. It's not like your middle linebacker, other than a turnover. Your middle linebacker, your free safety, is not going to be an offensive player. Now, 60 years ago, 70 years ago, yeah, but that's not the case now. You can separate these guys out and you can give them a different grade. You can have a 2010 Nebraska where the defense is absolutely amazing and has NFL guys on it, and the offense is like Iowa in 2022, where it's this historically bad offense. I mean, Iowa right now is a team that's just absolutely primed for grading. Week in and week out, you can look at the defense
Absolutely.
and talk about how amazingly good this defense is, how solid special teams are playing, and how it's getting completely wasted on this horrific offense.
Agree 100%.
But football sets itself up for that. It is like that because you've got these separate units that truly don't. And I made this comment in response to Coach Pettit's tweet that good coaches will bring those units together and they'll interact to a fairly high degree with a huge amount of support for each other, but you're not going to see them on the field performing with each other. The on-field performance happens a little bit in a vacuum.
Well, I think the difference is, and maybe why I took it personal, even though it wasn't on my Twitter
Well, that's
account.
because you're an Iowegian.
No, here's what it is. I think you do a really good job, Rob, of interacting and having civil conversations, deep thought out conversations with people about football on your Twitter page.
Well, that's because
I don't
don't take jack shit personal.
No, and I get that, but I don't know if Sam McEwen turns around and interacts with readers. You do a good job, and that's why I'm like, Rob's report card is out there to start conversation, engage listeners, and then start a conversation about the game.
If you completely disagree with me, fucking A, that's awesome.
Yes, I like that better. I like that even better.
Yeah, let me know why you do. I mean, like the whole thing, like our bum T-shirts here, where the guy was like, our man was like, it's like, Yeah, but you didn't even watch the game. You just looked at the score. You guys are bums. I'm like, come on. It's like, yeah, I did watch the game, and here's why I gave him the grade I did. So, I mean, here's the thing, though. I really appreciate Coach Pettit, which, by the way, for anybody listening, if you want an absolute master class in teaching leadership, which is what Coach Pettit does now, go follow him on Twitter. He's a great Twitter follow. Absolutely is.
Yeah, so, I have the utmost respect for him. I just disagree with him here.
And I did too. I do disagree with him. Doesn't mean I don't like him, and doesn't mean I'm not going to be able to say, like, well, here's why I disagree with you. You know, I got A, B, C, and D. Here's my reasons. But I'm not going to sit there and be like, yeah, Coach Pettit's a bum. Screw that guy.
No.
Yeah. It's like I disagree with him, but here you go. But again, I'm going to also tell people, hey, if you want a master class on leadership, follow Terry Pettit on Twitter.
Were you surprised the USA Today won its lawsuit, or not lawsuit, I guess, Trev had to come out and say what the metrics were for Scott. Were you surprised 6 wins was it?
Or that they won the lawsuit, or that
that 6 wins was the measuring stick.
No, not at all.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
The bar had to be low. I mean, I think Trev came in and saw.
Trev knew he was going to fire him anyway. Trev knew this was going to happen.
I think you were right. I think Scott knew it. I mean, it's sort of. I think there was a little bit of a change in Frost's demeanor when Trev came on board, because all of a sudden it was one of those, this guy didn't hire me. And I mean, he's going to kind of hold my feet to the fire here a little.
No, well, everybody's gone now.
But yeah.
Jared Lamprecht's gone. Matt Davison's gone.
Yeah.
Scott Frost is gone. Everybody associated with those guys pretty much gone.
Yeah. But I mean, I know a few people who know Trev better than I do. And they said one of the things that you heard kind of behind the scenes was the fact that Trev took a look around and was like, there's 350 people in this administration, and I don't know what 300 of them do. I mean, that's telling.
It's very telling.
So I'm not surprised by where you see a number of these people gone, but I mean, if Scott Frost was winning 11 games a year, then those people are part of a machine that's churning out success. When Scott's winning 3 to 4 games a year, they're part of a machine that's churning out failure.
Did you find it interesting that Scott wanted it in writing and Fred Hoiberg didn't?
No, I think a lot's being made out of that point.
Well, I just think Fred's like, I got a lot of money anyway. It doesn't really matter. I know I got to win, so I'll do what I can do.
Exactly. And I mean, so a lot of people have made a lot out of this in the trust standpoint.
Fred's got a lot of money, folks.
So, yeah, well, anymore Scott does too. But I mean, Fred's been doing this for longer than Scott's been doing this.
Yes.
At the multi-million-dollar level. So, yeah, I think Fred's standpoint is, yeah, the money is remotely not as big a thing for him as it is for Scott. And I think for Scott, it's one of those, all right, let's put this in writing. Let's make sure we got this down, because whichever side of those parameters I fall on, I want to make sure I'm taken care of.
And I understand that.
I don't have a problem with that.
No.
And I think that's smart on Scott's part. I know some people were trying to make a little bit out of this in the sense of, well, there was this lack of trust between Scott and Trev, and that shows either unfavorably on one versus the other, and I don't think so. I mean, I thought it was a smart move by Scott. I think the dynamics between Scott and Trev and between Fred and Trev, it's different. It's
By the way, no AD wants their coaches to fail.
No, they want these guys to do well.
You don't want to fire somebody. You don't want to pay somebody $15 million just to go away. You want somebody to be successful.
100%. And I think Trev would have loved to have seen Scott succeed in Lincoln. I think, well, everybody would have loved to have seen Scott succeed in
Yeah.
Lincoln. So, I mean, I feel bad about the fact that not that it went bad, but that it went as bad as it did. That's the thing that really kind of sucks about this all.
You know, we could have another hour conversation because, you know, a lot of the fan base, if you pay attention to social, wants Mickey Joseph to be the head coach. I don't think he's going to be the head coach. He's going to have to get to 6 wins. He's going to have to.
I think minimum 6, but I mean, again, the whole dynamic there. I'm trying to look at this from a distance, and as a former player, especially a guy who played with Mickey, it's hard to pull yourself back and look at this from a distance. But I mean, I pull myself back and I look at this and I'm like, you know, when has a guy like Mickey, who's been an interim coach, I mean, there's a lot of experience there. I mean, I truly think, I mean, if I was Mickey, I'd want to go be an O coordinator for a few more years here. I'd want to be a passing game coordinator for a few more years here. I don't know if I'd want to go from being a wide receivers coach at LSU to literally like a fourth of a season as the passing game coordinator. Now I'm the interim head coach. Now I'm going to be the head coach for however long. I'm not sure I want that. I mean, if you look at the potential for growth there, and I look at Mickey, and I mean, if I'm him, I'm sitting here going, I'd like a little more time as kind of a passing game coordinator, as an O coordinator. And this was a great experience. This was amazing. Love Lincoln. I mean, I think Mickey's, I don't know. I think the best thing for any coach in this situation would be kind of like Luke Fickell.
Yeah.
I think that was a great model. Like, I mean, somebody else comes in as the head coach, keeps Mickey on for recruiting and as the...
And then he goes to be a head coach somewhere else.
It's like the O coordinator, and maybe go someplace else for a while. I mean, the whole Alma Matter thing, it's either this... It's going to be the greatest thing ever. It's going to be kind of so-so. I mean, I look at like guys like Rich Rodriguez. I look at Schiano, and I'm like, the fact that those guys ever left West Virginia and Rutgers the first time, God, those were bad moves.
Hindsight's 20/20.
No, and I get it, but you know, hold on. You can say hindsight's 20/20. I remember watching West Virginia under Rich Rodriguez, thinking to myself, like, holy shit, this guy's getting mentioned for Big Ten jobs, for NFL jobs. I remember thinking, God, if Rich Rodriguez is smart, he never leaves.
I think people see it, but you know what you think of? You think of the payday. You're like, because you're thinking, oh, there's a lifestyle change between $2 million a year and $5 million a year at that time. That's a lifestyle change.
I don't know. I mean,
it's a lifestyle change.
So I operated in the world of medicine where I remember one of the docs I worked under, he said to really see a big, for your 100,000 a year people, he said to see a lifestyle change, you kind of needed about 200 grand to enact that lifestyle change.
Right. Okay.
If you're making $2 million a year, you think your lifestyle, because $2 million a year is already, you got a boat and it's a nice boat. You got a lake house and it's the nice lake house. About the only step up above that
is your ability to win a national championship.
Well, I was going to say on lifestyle.
Okay.
About the only step up from there is to get to that true mega rich, where I call it, that's private plane level.
Yeah.
Where you own your own plane and you got a pilot, you've got a place to store it, maintenance, all of that stuff. Private plane, if you've got a couple of million, that next level, that's a big jump. But again, man, it's one of those. I don't think your lifestyle truly changes that much, and that's why I look at I looked at Schiano, I looked at Rodriguez, and I'm like, God, if these dudes are smart, they never leave here. I look at Fitzgerald at Northwestern. Actually, that one's a little bit of I think that one's an outlier just because I think in terms of recruiting and NIL, transfer portal, I think things get difficult at a school like Northwestern.
They're getting a new stadium. They got the best practice facility in the Big Ten.
Yeah, those facilities right now are nice.
Yeah.
But I mean,
but the thing is, the facility game's over. It's all about NIL now.
It is. And are you going to get NIL money for Northwestern? Are you going to get 4 or 5-star guys at Northwestern? And the fact is you're not. Yeah. And I think that job becomes increasingly difficult, more so than what it has been. And I think Fitzgerald, he's already been going above and beyond there than anybody else could.
What I heard Dr. Rob saying is, when it comes to lifestyle change, he's got the private plane. That's what he's got.
I don't have a private plane.
All right. If you have any questions for Dr. Rob, it's doctalksports@gmail.com. That's doctalksports@gmail.com. This is going to be a quick turnaround. You're going to be back on Sunday because we're going to do a Doc's Diagnosis presented by Centris Federal Credit Union. We'll look at the Fighting Illini of Illinois. Also, we'll take a look at Nebraska's game with Illinois, it's going to be an interesting one. Illinois has got a really good defense, really good running game.
God, their run game's good.
Brett Bielema has got that team playing really, really, really well.
They lost to Illinois, they lost to Indiana.
Yeah, that's true.
We got a win. We beat Indiana.
So there you go. Hey, listen, I'll be the first to say it. Every one of these games, with the exception of Michigan, is winnable for Nebraska.
I was shocked that Nebraska only lost by a score to Purdue.
Trey Palmer, he's a player.
He really is.
He's an NFL player.
He's this year's Samari Torre.
Yes, absolutely. So that's coming up. If you have any questions, again, doctalksports@gmail.com. Thank you to Connor Orr and Orr, Horgan and Flente, the law firm. Check them out at ohflaw.com. Thank you to Scott Strunk over at Husker Hounds. If you need your Husker gear, visit one of the 2 locations in the Omaha area or huskerhounds.com. And tickets for less, brand new to the Husker Doc Talk podcast. Go to ticketsforless.com. And, of course, our good friends at BetFred Sports. Download the app now on the Apple and Google Play stores. Your first bet when you set up a brand new account is free. Get a $20 free bet using the promo code DOCTALK. For Dr. Rob Zadiska, I'm Travis Justice. We will talk to you Sunday on the Doc Talk podcast presented by BetFred Sports.